Chapter 392. Year 7734, November 18th. The tactics of the Cone Shield Spear Cavalry Battalion had been trained to perfection. Early in the morning, in the middle of autumn, Lin Muyu personally led the 20,000 soldiers of the Courage of the Dragon Battalion and headed straight for the Black Pine Pass. The Mozong Pass was the largest pass between the Earthly Star Province of the Empire and the Swift White Province of Iha Country. Whoever could seize the Mozong Pass would take the initiative in the war. However, the Mozong Pass was occupied by demons with over 3,000 armored demons. Before noon, the army arrived at Mozong Pass. Dong dong dong. For the first time, the Longdan army camp began to call for battle. As the sunlight dispersed the mist, the vision became very clear. The demon generals on the gate of Black Pine Pass roared crazily towards the city with spears in their hands. At the same time, the gate of the city was opened rapidly. Armored demons walked out of the pass. They didn't rush to attack, instead they lined up and prepared to fight. At the same time, battle flags fluttered above the city gate. A demon general was beating a battle drum with a very unpleasant sound. Damn. Wei Chou grinned, the drums of the demons are like farts, so unpleasant. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Cavalry camp with Cone Shield Spear, prepare for battle. Su Jiantao and other cavalrymen with heavy shields slowly moved to the front of the formation. Their warhorses were all carefully selected, or they could not bear such a terrible weight. Slowly swinging the pear blossom spear, Lin Muyu's white cloak behind her gently fluttered, and she quickly joined the ranks of the cavalry camp with Cone Shield Spear. Wei Chou hurriedly said, "Commander, you are going to fight again. Don't forget you are the commander of the three armies, you can't take the risk yourself." "Don't worry." Lin Muyu confidently turned back and smiled. "Don't forget I am a sanctuary and the armor demons can't do anything to me. With my participation we can reduce the losses of the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou, the commander of the cavalry camp with Cone Shield Spear, will attack. You command the rest of the brothers in the Longdan army camp to support, and prepare for the charge of the armor demons. In this battle we must annihilate the demons at all costs." "Yes, don't worry, Commander. Sound the drums, start the battle." The beating of the drums became more and more intense. Lin Muyu raised the pear blossom spear in her hand and shouted, "Spear cavalry with Cone Shield, maintain your formation and kill the enemy with me." Everyone raised their shields, their faces filled with killing intent as they roared in unison, "Long live the Empire! Long live the Empress!" The conical shield spear-wielding cavalry battalion started to move faster and faster. Soon they reached the speed of cavalry tactics. In front of them were almost 3,000 armored demons. Roar! Facing the human army with weird shields, the armored demons were infuriated. They quickly raised their weapons and rushed over. Lin Muyu walked at the forefront, surrounded by the power of the gourd wall and the god-binding shackles. With a slight shake of the pear blossom spear in her hand, she directly executed the dragon-taming spear technique, seeking the Wei stance. The long spear pierced into the neck of an armored demon like a mad dragon. A fierce whirlwind aura erupted, instantly shattering the head and neck. The three armored demons behind her almost simultaneously raised their long spears and pierced over. They recognized Lin Muyu, the commander of the legion. Charging stance. Suddenly spurring the warhorse, treading snow's speed increased a lot. Brandishing the pear blossom spear, she knocked away the weapons of three armored demons in a row. After that, Lin Muyu rushed into the crowd of armor demons without looking back. Her long spear pierced into the necks of the armor demons one after another, causing blood to blossom. On her side, Su Jiantao and other soldiers of the Longdan army camp were also fighting with the armor demons. Ding ding ding. As expected, the thrust of the armor demons' long spears was blocked by the conical shields. Meanwhile, the Longdan army camp soldiers' long spears, which were refined with white diamonds, pierced into the chest of the armor demons mercilessly. In an instant the ground was covered with blood. The two troops collided with each other and fought fiercely. Meanwhile, the sound of the arrow boxes kept resounding behind them. Wei Chou led the rest of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp to start a positional battle. Raising her iron fist, Lin Muyu operated her Xian energy and suddenly punched out. Chaos of all lives. The Xian energy formed a powerful impact, making a group of armor demons fly back. However, the vitality of the armor demons was too strong. Many armor demons were not killed after being hit by the first brilliance. They roared and waved their weapons to launch an attack. However, they were pushed back by the cavalry with conical shields and spears, and then were killed by the spears. What could they do? The heavy cavalry charging at full speed was too terrifying. If these armor demons couldn't defeat the heavy cavalry, they could only be killed. Lin Muyu led the cavalry with conical shields and spears to rush back and forth in the group of armor demons. She swung her pear blossom spear with scarlet blood. The 12 movements of dragon taming spear skill was indeed the best choice in charging and breaking the enemy's formation. When she used Hongchuan move, charging move and breaking move one by one, even experienced battle generals couldn't defend against her, not to mention these armor demons who only knew how to rush with brute force. The battle was very fierce. In the blink of an eye, the Black Pine Pass had been covered with the corpses of armor demons and human soldiers. Fortunately, the individual cultivation of the cavalry with conical shields and spears was not bad. Therefore they suffered a relatively small loss. However, a large number of armor demons behind them launched an attack on the troops of Wei Chou and Qin Yan, causing them to suffer a heavy loss. However, the Longdan army camp soldiers had made up their mind to kill the armor demons today. They would not retreat anymore. They just fought the armor demons at the risk of their lives. The arrow boxes were launched again and again, greatly reducing the number of armor demons. At the same time, the ballistae and bolts also launched attacks on the garrisons of the armor demons on the fortress, causing miserable howls in the air. The fierce battle lasted until the afternoon. Lin Muyu was covered with the blood of the armor demons. She couldn't remember how many armor demons she had killed. Finally, the morale of the armor demons gradually weakened. The few remaining armor demons were also surrounded and shot to death by the heavy cavalries of the Longdan army camp. With a boom, the gate of the fortress collapsed. Qin Yan broke the gate himself and seized the Black Pine Pass. Enter the city and kill all the demons. Leave no one alive. Lin Muyu entered the city with her bloody spear. Yes, sir. Wei Chou waved his arm while a large batch of Longdan army camp entered the city. However, the armor demons were armor demons after all. Hundreds of armor demons in the city roared and fought desperately. Many of them had lost their arms or legs. They waved their weapons and fought with the cavalries with shields and spears. Finally, they were killed one by one. It was very tragic. 1 hour later, there were no more armor demons left in the Black Pine Pass. Fengxi, Su Jiantao and the others quickly seized the two sides of the pass and put the Empire's purple Yinhua flag on the city wall. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp also entered the fortress one by one and began to rest. Outside the city, a large number of armor demons whose fangs had been knocked out were piled up and buried together. Phew, Wei Chou breathed heavily and walked over with his hand on the hilt of his sword. His face was full of joy. Commander, the Black Pine Pass is ours. Lin Muyu also let out a sigh of relief. The fact proved that the armor demons were not invincible. As long as the human army was elite enough with the arrow boxes, ballistae and other equipment, they still had the power to fight. How many people did we lose? He asked slowly. Wei Chou said, 87 people of the cavalries with shields and spears died and 114 were injured. The whole army lost more than 740 people and nearly 2,000 people were injured. Do we need to take a rest and then fight again? Send someone to Buga City and mobilize Tang Xi's army to guard the Black Pine Pass. Tomorrow we will attack the other two passes and take back the occupation of Qinling Mountains in the Earthstar province from the demons. Yes, I will arrange it right now. After 3 consecutive days of fierce fighting, the 3 passes in the Longdan army camp all fell into the hands of the Longdan army camp. Meanwhile, Tang Xi transferred 30,000 troops from Cold Star City and stationed 10,000 troops at each pass to guard the southern gate of the empire. After a few days' rest, Longdan camp recovered its battle strength once again. Although they had lost almost 2,000 people in the previous battles, they were not severely injured. Conversely, after demons lost the 3 passes, almost 10,000 armored demons were killed. There were 2 fangs of armored demons in the camp of Longdan camp, which could be proved by the 2 tusks of armored demons in the camp of Longdan camp. After waking up, Lin Muyu felt refreshed. The fighting energy in her body had recovered to the peak state. After stepping out of the central military tent in the Black Pine Pass, she saw Wei Chou waiting outside. He cupped his hands and smiled. Commander, you're awake. I have already ordered the people of the spiritual fire department to prepare meat soup and bread. Breakfast will be ready soon. Well, send my breakfast to the city pass. I want to go up and have a look. Yes. It was early winter and the weather was very cold. Standing on the Black Pine Pass and looking to the south, everywhere was fiery red. That was the color of maple leaves falling all over the ground. The vast rivers and mountains of the Qin Empire were so magnificent, but now it was stepped on by the demons. It was really a pity. On the side, a guard respectfully held a plate and said, "Commander, breakfast." "Thank you very much." Lin Muyu picked up the bowl of meat soup, took a sip and put it on the cold battlement. She grabbed the bread and took a bite. After drinking the hot soup she felt warm all over. She couldn't help but smile and said, "The food in the Longdan army camp is really delicious." Wei Chou was a little speechless. "Commander, the food in the Imperial Army is the same, pork soup and bread. Moreover, the spiritual fire department that Duke Lan arranged for the Longdan army camp is not the best cook. The meat soup is tasteless." "Really? I don't feel." On the side, Su Jiantao smiled. "Sir Wei Chou, you may not know this, but the commander is in a good mood after taking 3 passes. That's why everything tastes good." "Ah yes." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "General Su, you have made a great contribution in training the spear and shield cavalry. I will remember this. When we return to the imperial capital, Her Highness will naturally reward you." Su Jiantao cupped his fists and said, "This subordinate only wishes to follow the commander to conquer the south and recover the land for the empire. That way I won't have wasted my life as a man. I have nothing else to ask for." "No." Lin Muyu sincerely said, "Even so, I still need Jinying coins and a wife." Su Jiantao smiled knowingly. "Then, this subordinate thanks the commander." Lin Muyu drank another mouthful of hot soup and chewed on the bread. However, her eyes were staring at the south with deep desire. Wei Chou couldn't help but smile and said, "General Su, prepare to pass down the order. The 3 armies are ready to set off again in a few days." Su Jiantao was stunned. "We just conquered 3 passes and we are going to set off again." Wei Chou said, "The commander has been looking at the south. Don't you understand the commander's intention? Commander, are you planning to take back the cities of Iha Nation from the hands of the devil race?" "That's right." Lin Muyu's eyes were indifferent and said, "Order the preparation. We will set off tomorrow to attack Huiyue City and put this beautiful city back on the map of the Qin Empire." "Yes, Commander." Chapter 393. Tuk tuk tuk. A rider entered the Mozong Pass from the south and went straight to the commander's tent. The golden emblem of the Longdan army camp on his shoulder looked very beautiful under the moonlight. He was in a hurry and sweat oozed out of his forehead. He took the opportunity to wipe his sweat the moment he opened the tent and knelt down on one knee. He said respectfully, "Commander, the news has been confirmed. How many demons are guarding the fiery moon city?" Lin Muyu looked up at him. "Not too many people." The scout cupped his fists and said, "Most of the civilians in the fiery moon city have been killed. Many of them have become the food of the armor demons. There are at most 500 armor demons guarding the city. I heard from the civilians that there were at least 10,000 armor demons attacking the city. But not long ago these armor demons rushed to the east, which is the direction of the Bailing city. It seems that they received an emergency call." "To the Bailing city?" Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Is there a war in the Bailing city?" Wei Chou said, "Not for the time being. But not long ago our scouts sent back a letter saying that Long Qianlin is strengthening the training of the 50,000 dragon riders. Seems that he wants to have a head-on battle with the demons. Judging from the time, the battle should have started now. This is the only reason for the demons to retreat." "I see." Lin Muyu said lightly, "Long Qianlin must have eaten the courage of a leopard. He dares to fight the demons head-on? Lei Chong should be there too. Lei Chong will personally supervise the battle. Long Qianlin almost has no chance." I don't know. What should we do?" "According to the original plan, send out 5,000 soldiers tomorrow to recover the fiery moon city." "Yes." In the middle of the night the Longdan army camp was silent. Everyone had fallen asleep. Everyone knew that they would start another journey the next day. This time they would enter the territory of the Iha country to fight with the demons. Not only would they face the armor demons, but they might also face the army of the Iha country. So they must not take it lightly. However, there were always people who couldn't sleep in the middle of the night. Inside the stable, a lonely figure sat on the wooden railing next to the manger, holding fodder to feed the war horses. The cold moonlight carved out a clear and bright face. It was Wei Chou. Beside him, a person walked out of the darkness with a hand on his sword. He smiled and said, "Lord Wei Chou, are you still not asleep?" Wei Chou raised his head and saw that it was Qin Yan. He smiled and said, "Isn't little prince still awake?" "I can't sleep." Qin Yan grinned and said with a smile, "That's why I came out for a walk. I believe that Lord Wei Chou sleeps and eats well every day. To think that you did not sleep so late today. Is there something on your mind?" Wei Chou smiled with tacit understanding. "You're the same. Commander only brought 5,000 Longdan army camp brothers to conquer Fiery Moon City, entering deep into Iha Nation's territory alone. This isn't his personality at all. Little Prince Qin Yan should also know what Lord Commander wants to do, right?" Qin Yan clenched his teeth and said, "At first I thought Big Brother was crazy, daring to charge into the heart of Iha Nation with just one Longdan army camp. Behind that steel protective wall is Sunset City. There are over 150,000 Iha Nation soldiers stationed there, and the one leading them is Ding Shi. Our Longdan army camp only has a mere 10,000 people. Going would be suicide. Until tonight when we received the news." That's right. One news and Commander lost his sense of propriety. Wei Chou heavily punched the wooden railing. His face became distorted as he said, "Lu Zhao, that bastard, is in Sunset City. The place where he cut off Qin Lei's head is also in Sunset City. Lord Commander regards Qin Lei as his brother. It is impulsive for him to go to Fiery Moon City, but as a man I admire Commander's courage. If this trip to Fiery Moon City ends in death, Wei Chou will not regret it." Qin Yan nodded. "For Big Brother's head, Big Brother dares to exchange his life for it. What do Qin Yan have to hesitate? Accompanying Big Brother to die in battle under the walls of Iha Nation is perhaps the best ending for me." Wei Chou muttered, "I'm just worried. Lord Commander doesn't want us to take the risk together, and we'll go to Sunset City alone in the end. This is the situation I'm most worried about. The Lord is skilled and bold, but..." Wei Chou revealed a pained expression. He clenched his teeth and didn't say anything else. "Don't worry." Qin Yan patted Wei Chou's shoulder and said, "We are all veterans of the Longdan army camp. We will live and die together. I believe in Big Brother and I believe in you. Sleep early." In the sky, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse, but no one knew how many changes were happening on this land. In Southridge Province, the steel protective walls were bright under the moonlight, but the land was already in chaos. The sound of war drums reached the heavens, and on the ground, countless Iha Nation cavalry were connected to each other by heavy chains, coordinating with the chariots charging forward. In the demon camp, countless ferocious-looking armor demons brandished their weapons as they charged forward, but they fell to the ground one after another under the entanglement of the iron chains. Immediately after, the sharp blades of the dragon riders pierced through their backs. The armor demon's outer shell was admittedly hard, and normal blades and swords couldn't penetrate it, but if they were hacked many times they could still break through the shell. Roar, roar. Amidst the sound of the demons' war drums, another wave of armor demons raised their blunt weapons and charged toward the dragon rider camp. Within the group of armor demons, a general wearing golden armor swung his war hammer, and with an angry roar, smashed a chariot into pieces. The war hammer surged with streaks of black fighting energy, and the demonic fighting energy twisted the chariot and the soldiers' bodies into a pile of minced meat. It was a tragic sight to behold. This general was unstoppable, and a bloody demonic aura enshrouded his body. He swung his war hammer, grabbing the chains, and dragged dozens of dragon riders away. The heavy cavalry collided with each other and blood and flesh flowed everywhere. "Oh good." The general roared loudly. Countless armor demons flapped their wings and flew toward the dense mass of heavy cavalry in front of them. In an instant, dust flew into the sky, and the great battle that darkened the sky made everyone feel extremely shaken. On the steel protective wall, a group of Iha country's generals stood majestically, watching the chaotic battle below the city wall. All of them frowned. No one knew the outcome of this battle and no one could predict the final result. Qin Yi was wearing a robe embroidered with a golden dragon. Watching the fierce battle below the city wall, he couldn't help but frown and ask, General Long, do we really only have this choice? Long Qianlin cupped his hands and said, the iron chain formation restrains each other, and it can bring out the human race's power to the extreme. I'm afraid that only this kind of battle strategy can contend with the demon army of the armor demons. Commander, please believe in me. If we don't defeat this powerful armor demon army, I'm afraid we can only guard the steel protective wall forever. Qin Yi's eyes flickered a bit and he said, actually, we don't have to fight the demon race to determine victory or defeat. Commander. Long Qianlin naturally knew what Qin Yi was thinking and he said indifferently, the demon race has two great armies. The Lei Chong army is attacking the Iha country, and the Qianfeng army is attacking the empire. No matter which side loses, the human race is completely finished. This battle is very important to us and I hope that you can be as determined as this subordinate to exterminate the demon race. This is our land and we can't let this group of stinky cockroaches occupy it. Qin Yi sighed and said, yes, as you wish. Do your best to fight. On the side, the young Qin Huan, who was wearing a golden marshal's armor, cupped his hands and said, Father, why don't you let me lead the cavalry to help you fight? In my opinion, the dragon riders have no confidence in winning against nearly 100,000 armor demons. Nonsense. Qin Yi frowned and said, you've just entered the battlefield, so you should learn more tactics from General Long. It's not your turn to go to the battlefield yet. But father. Shut up. Qin Yi pointed below the city and said, that demon general wearing golden armor is Lei Chong. Huan, if you think you're Lei Chong's match, then I won't stop you. Go ahead and fight. Below the city, Lei Chong's warhammer smashed several heavy cavalrymen into a pile of minced meat. The demonic aura of blood surged, setting off waves of energy that sent dozens of cavalrymen and their horses flying. The angry roars of the armor demons soared into the sky. Qin Huan couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart and he said with a frown, I know I was wrong. Father is right in teaching me. On the side, General Li Qianxuan cupped his hands and said, Commander, the young commander's intention to fight for the country is good. It's a good thing that you have such a tiger son. It's just that the young commander is still too young and needs some experience. I hope that you won't blame the young commander. Qin Yi nodded and said, I know. Pass down the order. Have the soldiers of 100 Ridge City prepare for battle and support the dragon riders at any time. The dragon riders are our lifeline, and we can't let them be destroyed outside the city. Long Qianlin said respectfully, yes, Commander. At this moment, a bird descended from the sky and landed on Long Qianlin's shoulder. He took out the letter tube and glanced at it. His expression was neither sad nor happy, as if there was no news at all. What's wrong? Qin Yi asked. Long Qianlin cupped his hands and said, reporting to Commander, I've just received a letter from the Earth Star province. Lin Muyu has led 20,000 soldiers of the Empire's Longdan army camp to fight against the demons. She has won several battles and killed nearly 10,000 armor demons of the demon race. She has already taken back the 3 passes including Black Pine Pass in the western Qinling Mountains. It's Lin Muyu again. Qin Yi's eyes were cold as he said, the 3 passes were originally in the hands of our Iha country, but now they have fallen into the hands of the Empire. This hateful Lin Muyu. On the side, Li Qianxuan said, the steel protective wall of the Swift White Province is guarded by Marshal Ding Shi. Don't worry, Commander. Marshal Ding Shi is a veteran of hundreds of battles. Lin Muyu won't get any benefits from him. I know. Qin Yi muttered to himself before saying, send a letter to Ding Shi. Once Lin Muyu makes any movements, order Ding Shi to immediately lead the army out of the steel protective wall and kill them. I want Lin Muyu's head. Long Qianlin couldn't help but be surprised. Commander Lin Muyu is a rare famous general. If she can be used by us to fight against the demon race, wouldn't that be better? Ha! Qin Yi couldn't help but laugh as he patted Long Qianlin's shoulder. If I kill your godfather, will you still be loyal to me? This, Long Qianlin's sword-like brows were tightly locked together. Will Commander please reconsider? This subordinate only thinks that Lin Muyu is a talent that can be used. Understood. Qin Yi was somewhat impatient as he looked at the battlefield that was filled with the sounds of killing and said, send a letter to Marshal Ding Shi to capture Lin Muyu alive and destroy the Longdan army camp. Yes, Commander. Chapter 394. Early in the morning, the sun shone like strands of golden ribbons in the forest. The warhorses moved slowly under the mottled shadows of the trees. Lin Muyu held the reins in one hand and the sword on his waist with the other. The imperial commander's armor was shining under the morning light. The 3 six-pointed stars on his collar were even more dazzling. He squinted his eyes lazily and followed the large group of people. Suddenly he asked, "How far are we from Fiery Moon City?" 100 miles. If we rush at full speed we can reach it in 2 hours. Wei Chou said solemnly. No need to rush. Just walk slowly and let the soldiers maintain their strength. Lin Muyu slowly exhaled. A wisp of turbid dou qi was exhaled along with this breath. This was the effect of training the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. Training over and over again could make his dou qi even purer. It was far from what ordinary practitioners could compare with. Looking at the distant forest, Lin Muyu said faintly, "Wei Chou, send out scouts and scouting birds. You must grasp every movement within a 100-mile radius. After all, this is the territory of the Iha nation's traders and not our own territory." "Yes, Commander. Don't worry. This subordinate has made arrangements." "That's good." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth raised. She said, "Don't be in a hurry to attack after we reach Fiery Moon City. First assemble the arrow boxes and use them to shoot for a while. Then send out the spear-wielding cavalry to fight. This will minimize our losses against the armor demons." "Yes, this subordinate will immediately pass on the order." "Yes." On the side, Qin Yan licked his lips. The dou qi in his body revolved and his fighting spirit was extremely high. "We can fight against those dirty cockroaches again. Big brother, this time no matter what, you must let me charge at the front lines. You cannot let a dozen personal guards watch over me. I am a champion. If I don't charge and break through enemy lines, what use is there for me in the Longdan army camp?" "Yes." Lin Muyu glanced at him and said with a smile, "However, Ah Yen, you must be careful. After all, there is not much of the Qin bloodline left. You are a true descendant of the family. Nothing must happen to you." "Big brother, don't worry. I know." Qin Yan held the long spear that was circulating with light, his gaze looking in the direction of the Fiery Moon City in the distance, and said, "Elder brother died for the country, and father also died together with His Majesty the late Emperor at the Fairy Lake. Although Qin Yan is a little prince, I will also contribute to the empire, and use my military merits to exchange for Her Highness Qin Yin's reward for me. Elder brother, what do you think?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and did not say anything else. Qin Yan's fingers were like claws as he grabbed the back of this person's head and threw him off the horse. Immediately, Wei Chou, Fingxi and the other generals of the Longdan army camp surrounded him. "I didn't do anything. I've never surrendered to Iha country. Ah no, I've never surrendered to the country established by Qin Yi, that bastard. Please believe me, I'm just an insignificant hunter." He was so scared that his face turned pale. As soon as he landed, he knelt down and begged for mercy in front of Lin Muyu, who was wearing a commander's armor. "It's okay. Stand up first." Lin Muyu raised her hand and a Saint Realm cyclone slowly rose up, lifting the man up from the ground. She then looked at him with a gentle smile. "Brother Hunter, have you been to Fire Moon City?" "I have." The hunter's face was still very ugly, but it was much better than before. Lin Muyu continued, "I'm the commander of the Longdan army camp under the command of Her Highness the Empress of the Qin Empire. My name is Lin Muyu. This time I led the army to defeat the Devil Race's defending army at the north of the mountain ridge. Therefore I plan to kill my way to the south of the mountain ridge and take back the cities that were occupied by the Devil Race. I want to ask you, what's the situation in Fire Moon City now? Do you know?" The hunter shuddered and said, "I'm just a hunter. I hunted some badgers and wild hares. They were all sent to Fire Moon City to be sold for copper coins. Those Devil Race. Did the Devil Race buy food from human hunters?" Lin Muyu asked in surprise. The hunter shook his head. "No, those Devil Race known as armor demons never buy food. They only know how to rob. I sell my prey to the craftsmen that stayed in the city." "Craftsmen?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "What's the situation?" The hunter said, "I don't know either. I only know that it seems that the nobles in the Devil Race gave an order that every time they pillaged a city of Iha country, they can't start a massacre. They must capture all the stonemasons, blacksmiths, bow makers, carpenters and doctors, lock them together, and then send them to the Devil Race's territory. However, a few days ago, more than half of the thousands of Devil Race soldiers stationed in Fire Moon City left, and they didn't have time to take these craftsmen away. Therefore, these craftsmen have been living in the city, although they are locked in the city and can't leave. How many craftsmen are there in total? Lin Muyu asked. About 20,000 people. Originally, Fiery Moon City had a population of 150,000. Alas, only 20,000 people were left after being slaughtered by the Devil Clan. Those damn beasts didn't even let off women and children. So that's how it is. I got it. Lin Muyu fished out 5 Jinyin coins and tossed them to him. Brother Hunter, we're going to attack Fire's Moon City. Swords have no eyes, so don't return to Fire's Moon City. Take this money and hide in the mountains for a while. You can return to Fire's Moon City when the battle is over. Okay. The hunter's hands trembled. He raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, Madam, will you really kill the Devil Race and avenge our relatives who were killed? I will. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked into the distance, saying lightly, We are soldiers of the Qin Empire. Protecting the Empire's territory is our duty. Go quickly. Yes. The hunter turned around and left. He didn't even dare to look back, as if he was afraid that Qin Yan would go and capture him again. Big brother, the situation has been confirmed. Shall we go? Qin Yan said. Yes, let's go. At noon, a small city with a red city wall appeared in the mountains. All the villages and towns near and far had been looted by the Devil Race. It was hard to see living people, not even corpses. Armor demons fed on humans. Although it was cruel, it seemed to be a natural advantage for them. At least it was an advantage in times of war. Looking from afar, many armor demons were walking on the city wall. They seemed to have found the traces of the Longdan army camp. They all roared at the foot of the city wall. The city gate was also opened. Many armor demons began to gather at the foot of the city wall. It seemed that they were ready to fight. There were less than 500 armor demons in this group. Additionally, no advanced demon was giving orders here. They were just a bunch of idiots defending the city, which saved a lot of trouble. When they were about 1.5 miles away from the city wall, the 5,000 cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp stopped quickly. Under the order of Wei Chou, they started to assemble the arrow boxes. Then a group of people pushed the arrow boxes forward. They brought 50 arrow boxes in total. The heavy arrow boxes rolled over the grassland at the foot of the city wall. The black exit of the arrow boxes pointed straight at the armor demons in the distance. Keep approaching and wait for them to charge. Lin Muyu put her hand on the hilt of her sword and said lightly with a smile. They moved forward slowly. When they were less than 500 meters away from the armor demons, they finally couldn't stand it anymore. Howl! The roar seemed to shake the air. It was deafening. The next moment, the armor demons raised their weapons and rushed over crazily without any formation. They only had the instinct to kill. However, this was also the foundation of their powerful fighting force. Ready, launch. Wei Chou roared when they were less than 100 meters away from the armor demons. With the constant sound of springs, pitch-black steel arrows pierced through the bodies of the armor demons one after another. Blood splashed in all directions. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the armor demons in the front row had been killed. The charging speed was too fast. Lin Muyu unsheathed her dragon spirit sword without any hesitation as she shouted, "Cavalrymen with conical shields and spears, go!" A group of heavy cavalrymen of the Courage Dragon Battalion with all shields launched attacks one after another. Of course, their power was extraordinary. Bang bang bang. After the all shields blocked the assassination of the armor demon, the white diamond weapons immediately pierced through the armor demon's heart. This group of cavalrymen with all shields and spears were all experts with profound cultivation bases. Now that they had formed a battle formation, their battle strength was naturally amazing. Lin Muyu rushed to the front of the crowd. She gently raised her palm and 3 glorious calamity whizzed out, smashing more than a dozen armor demons into pieces. She raised her long sword and with a crack, an armor demon's head flew into the sky. The armor demon died so fast that the mucus in its mouth was even splashing in the air, making it look ferocious and funny. As the cavalrymen with conical shields and spears swept past, Lin Muyu also quickly used the 3rd glorious energy for 4 times. She felt a burst of discomfort in her body. After all, the backfire of the 7 glorious energy was very terrible. so she didn't use it anymore. Instead, she used the Pear Blossom Spear to kill the last few armor demons. When she looked back, only a few of the 500 armor demons were left. This time, the loss of the Longdan army camp was negligible. Roar! On the city wall, an armor demon whizzed down and chopped at Lin Muyu's neck with the battle axe in his hand. "Be careful, my lord." Wei Chou reacted quickly. He raised his hand and shot an arrow through the armor demon's neck, killing it on the spot. Lin Muyu raised her palm. The true dragon original fire surged and directly burned the armor demon into ashes. The golden gourd wall rose and swept away the ashes of the armor demon's corpse. "Enter the city." Wei Chou held the longbow and looked around. His face was a bit more complacent. Although there were only 500 armor demons in the whole world, only the Longdan army camp could kill 500 armor demons without any loss. Chapter 395. Boom. When the Longdan army camp entered the city, the north gate of Fiery Moon City had already fallen apart. The gate had already been damaged when the armor demons broke into the city a few months ago. Now that it was hit by the heavy shields of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp, it was expected that it would fall apart. Taksha's 4 hooves stepped on the broken gate and slowly entered. Lin Muyu held the reins and looked at the ashes in the city. The demon race must have set fire when they entered the city. The granaries, temples, blacksmiths, and other facilities of Fiery Moon City had all been turned into ruins. Wei Chou's pair of starry eyes looked at everything around him. He frowned and said, "Commander, this is a complete ruin. It's impossible to defend. We shouldn't waste time here." "I know." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "The demon race may come back at any time, so we must quickly move the people here. Send someone to gather all the people in Fiery Moon City and leave the city from the north gate. Send 100 people to escort them across the Qinling Mountains to live in Bugu City." "Yes." Wei Chou frowned and asked, "Madam, will the city lord of Bugu City accept these people? After all, these people used to be citizens of the Iha country. They are hated by our empire. I'm worried that the city lord will kill these people." "It's okay. I'll write a letter." "Yes." At dusk, nearly 20,000 hungry craftsmen were found. Just as the hunter had said, this group of people had their own skills. Some were stonemasons, some were carpenters, and some were bow makers. These were all commoners who could be directly recruited by the empire's army. Moreover, the empire was building a steel wall, so there was a high demand for blacksmiths and stonemasons. At this moment, these people were even more precious than gold. Swoosh, swoosh. Lin Muyu swept away a blacksmith table that had been burnt black and put a piece of cloth on it. Then she took a pen and ink from Wei Chou and carefully wrote a letter to the city lord of Bugu City. "Sir Wangju, these people are all refugees of Fiery Moon City. Each of them has some skills, so I've decided to move them to Bugu City and make them citizens of the empire. I hope you can arrange it well and don't hurt them." Lin Muyu, after he finished writing, he took out a general seal from his cosmos sack and stamped it with the blood-red ink that Qin Yan was holding. Then he rushed into the granary, slaughtered several armor demons guarding the grain, and distributed the grain to civilians. Until late at night, 100 cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp slowly escorted 20,000 civilians out of the city. Almost all the valuable things in the Fiery Moon City had been moved away. These civilians were pulling countless items like food, gold coins, ironware, etc. On the city wall, Lin Muyu watched as the refugees left. The cold wind of the night blew on his face like a knife. He gently pressed his hand on the city wall and opened the military map again. Using the starlight, he explored the cities on the map. Finally, his finger gently pressed on a city mark on the map and did not leave. Wei Chou stood at the side and said with tacit understanding, "Xingju City is an extremely wealthy city. Originally, it had a population of over 200,000. Now there shouldn't be many left. Commander, are you planning to attack Xingju City?" "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at him with clear eyes and smiled. "Send someone to scout around Xingju City. See how many armor demons are guarding Xingju City. There shouldn't be many left." Wei Chou too said, "The armored demon army has almost turned out in full strength to fight against Long Qianlin in the direction of 100 Ridge City. Naturally, there won't be too many guards here, but Lord, Xingju City is too close to the Sunset City that Dingxi is guarding. From the steel protective wall to Xingju City, it would take no more than 4 hours of riding. Even the infantry can arrive in half a day. If we attack Xingju City, we might have to face the army of Lingnaniha country at any time. I have made up my mind. There's no need to say anything more. Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said, "Let everyone eat and sleep well tonight. Tomorrow morning we will attack Xingju City. Continue to travel light. Bring 3 days' worth of rations and supply troops back to Black Pine Pass." "We don't need to supply?" Wei Chou was stunned. "It doesn't matter. As long as we attack Xingju City within 3 days, we will have plenty of rations. If we fail, we will return to the Empire's territory. It's too dangerous here." "Yes." That night, nearly 5,000 soldiers of the Courage Dragon Battalion slaughtered hundreds of livestock found in the city and cooked pots of meat soup, allowing the soldiers to have a good meal. The war horses were fed with fodder. At midnight, the camp was filled with snoring sounds. The only sound was the hooves of the scouts in the distance. This kind of night was too quiet, so quiet that it made people feel uneasy. Beside the central tent, Lin Muyu did not sleep. Instead, he was lying on a huge millstone looking up at the starlight. His body stretched naturally, absorbing the power of the stars in the starlight. At the same time, he circulated the Do Qi in his body according to the chant of the star arts. However, he was unable to break through the layer of shackles and comprehend the power of the 4th level of the star arts. In the late autumn night, a layer of frost fell on Lin Muyu's face, but it didn't melt. Instead, the layer of astral energy on his face emitted a beautiful luster, reflecting off the frost. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Early in the morning, he woke up to the noisy sounds of hooves and cursing. Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. The one cursing was Fingxi. This fellow had a bad temper. He was currently reprimanding the soldiers of the Spiritual Fire Division for actually burning the army flatbread and wasting rations. "Big brother, it's time to eat." Qin Yan brought over the flatbread and meat soup. There was a large piece of meat bone in the soup bowl. It seemed to be beef and the aroma filled the air. Lin Muyu received it without hesitation. He was indeed starving after cultivating for an entire night. He drank the soup and ate the meat in big mouthfuls. Meanwhile, Qin Yan gently raised his hand to help Lin Muyu pat off the frost on his shoulder. He let out a warm breath and said with a smile, "Big brother, you didn't rest in the tent for the entire night?" The cultivation of the star arts requires absorbing the power of the stars. What a peculiar martial art. But it's also very strong. Qin Yan snickered. Lin Muyu also smiled and continued to bite on the flatbread. To him, Qin Yan was more like a younger brother. And after Qin Lei died, Qin Yan had indeed treated Lin Muyu as his elder brother. Otherwise he would not call him big brother. To have such a little prince as a younger brother who had tyrannical strength and was also very loyal, it was not bad either. After finishing a big bowl of meat, Lin Muyu clapped his hands and said, "Pack up. Prepare to continue marching." Yes. Qin Yan washed the soup bowl and handed it to the soldiers of the Spiritual Fire Division. Following that, he led Takshu over and said with a smile, "Big brother will only be able to reach Star Supreme City around dusk today. Should we attack the city immediately?" Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Take down Star Supreme City before the Fiend Race's army can react. Then take the good stuff in Star Supreme City and transport it back to North Ridge. Rather than leaving it for the Fiend Race, why not leave it for the Empire?" "I think so too. Set off." Yes. The army advanced majestically, and the purple Yinhua Empire's flag fluttered in the wind. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the Longdan army camp were all in high spirits. Their distinctive swords and armor were full of majesty. The morning light dragged everyone's shadows very long. On a land of death, this army galloped forward, as if bringing a ray of life to this land that had been massacred. Behind the steel protective wall of Sunset City, the Iha Empire's camp was connected. People were shouting and horses neighing, and it was very lively. Between the crisscrossing camps, a row of cavalry quickly entered the central tent. Walking at the front was a high-ranking general with 2 stars on his shoulder, the rank of captaincy. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a face full of beard. His eyes revealed a chilling hostility. With his hand on the hilt of the sword at his waist, he walked into the tent under the protection of the guards. In front of him was Ding Shi, who was holding a bowl of military meat soup. "General Xiong Chao pays his respects to Marshal Ding," he said in a clear voice. Ding Shi raised his head and smiled. He stood up and said, General Xiong, why have you come to the front barracks? Aren't you accompanying Marshal LV Zhao in Sunset City? Xiong Chao raised his thick eyebrows and said, Sunset City is full of women. I Xiong Chao am a boorish man and cannot stand this. So Marshal LV Zhao has ordered me to lead 3,000 cavalry out of the steel protective wall to probe the situation of the demons. Out of the steel protective wall? Ding Shi frowned and said, Marshal LV Zhao should also understand the danger north of the steel protective wall. As long as the demons send out an army of 1,000, I'm afraid that General Xiong's 3,000 cavalry will not survive. Xiong Chao smiled and said, Marshal Ding is worrying too much. Even though the armor demons are powerful, they are still stupid. As long as we use fire arrows to kill them, how can the armor demons do anything to us? Moreover, we have just received a letter saying that Marshal Long Qianlin's dragon riders have already used the chain formation to fight the main force of Lei Chong's armor demon army outside the city. The commander is personally supervising the battle, so there will not be many demons in the Swift White province. If we do not attack now, I'm afraid we will waste a great opportunity. Ding Shi narrowed his eyes and said, General Xiong really must go to battle? Yes, I have made up my mind. Xiong Chao took out a token arrow and said, This is the token arrow that Marshal LV Zhao has given to this general. I hope that Marshal Ding can let us pass. It seems that General is eager to gain merit. Ding Shi smiled and said, But after leaving the steel protective wall, there is nothing that can protect you. Also, to the north of the wall there is not only the demon race but also the Imperial Army. Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp is said to have entered Lingnan. You must be careful. Once you meet the Longdan army camp, do not fight and immediately retreat to the steel protective wall. The Imperial Army? Xiong Chao placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and his face was full of disdain. Marshal Ding has not fought for too long and has lost the spirit of a commander? What is there to be afraid of with just Lin Muyu and the Longdan army camp? Did Marshal Ding forget that in the Battle of Lanyan City, the Longdan army camp and the Imperial Army were killed by our Xiang City army and had to flee in a sorry state? If that Lin Muyu is smart, she will naturally hide from me. If I meet her, Marshal Ding, just wait for this general to come back with Lin Muyu's head to claim the reward. Ding Shi's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. General Xiong, do not underestimate the enemy. Rest assured, Marshal Ding only needs to rest assured. And come, open the door and let General Xiong's men out. Chapter 396. At dusk, dark clouds rolled in the sky above Xingju City. Lightning was faintly discernible, and it seemed as though a heavy rain was about to arrive. On the city wall, armored demons were carrying huge rocks to defend the city. Perhaps only armored demons who were born with great strength could defend the city in such a primitive way. An armored demon general was slowly walking on the city wall with a broken battle axe in his hand. With a pair of bloody eyes, he shouted towards an armored demon whose tusk had been broken, Ganbahu Turailaha, Tusna Valley. The armored demon lowered his head respectfully and said, Yes, sir. The general frowned, and his ferocious and terrifying face became even more unsightly. He punched the armored demon in the chest, causing him to retreat several meters. He roared furiously, Gundor Pai Sai. I don't believe that all of you can understand. When the heavy rain fell, the curtain of night had already fallen. However, in the distance rows of human cavalry appeared. Banners fluttered in the wind, and the large Qin character on the banners was extremely eye-catching to the demons. After a day of marching, the Longdan army camp had finally arrived at Xingju City. They were about to fight to the death with the hundreds of armored demons in the city. Lin Muyu lifted her cloak, shielding herself from the wind and rain. She narrowed her eyes as she looked at Xingju Cheng. She could not help but laugh, as expected of one of the wealthiest cities in Lingnan. The walls are at least 30 meters high. I really don't understand why Qin Yi would hand over a city like Xingju Cheng to the demon race. Wei Chou cupped his fists at the side and said, Reporting to Commander, Xingju City originally had a population of 250,000, but now there are only about 100,000 people. The Demon Clan seems to want to raise these living people as their rations. But the Demon Clan South that originally had close to 10,000 people stationed in Xingju City have all gone to the Eastern Ridge Province as reinforcements. Right now there are less than 800 Demon Clans. All right. Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. She said, Rest for 2 hours and pack the arrow boxes. After 2 hours, Immediately beat the drum and call for a fight. The sky is too dark and the armor demons are naturally arrogant. They won't be able to stand our provocation. They will come out of the city to fight. Yes. The people in the Longdan army camp didn't have a camp, so they could only eat a little food in the rain. Then they prepared their weapons, horses, shields, and so on. The 50 arrow boxes were also neatly built. They were just waiting for the demons to go out of the city to fight. Dong dong dong. The sound of the war drum penetrated the curtain of rain and spread to the top of the city. Instantly, a group of armor demons on the city wall became stunned. After that, they roared towards the city wall. With a sound of squeak, the intact heavy iron gate of the star-conquering city was slowly opened. Armor demons in clumsy armors were holding long spears, battle axes, hammers and other weapons and were ready for battle. After the order of the armor demon general, they poured out of the city like a tide. He's here. Wei Chao's eyes were stern. Their number seemed to exceed our spies. There are almost 1,000 armor demons. It doesn't matter. We can win even if it's less than 2,000 armor demons. Lin Muyu slowly raised her hand and took out the pear blossom spear. The blade of the sacred tool spear was surrounded by a cold aura and was filled with killing intent. This time Lin Muyu was even more confident because of the roar that came from the different dimension. Awu, a Catosaurus who had a lifespan of 5,000 years, was actually taking the initiative to ask for battle. With a thought, a space-time crack appeared in the darkness far away. Light purple lightning was darting around the crack and a Catosaurus swaggered out of it. It was flying. Its sharp claws danced lightly and its dragon scales shook. Its body was enshrouded in a mysterious mist, supporting its heavy body. When Acatosaurus came to her side, it raised its head to ask for her favor. Lin Muyu touched its head and said with a smile, "In a while when the demons attack, use the invincible wind cloud wheel to roll over. Be careful, don't hurt the people in our Longdan army camp." Acatosaurus blinked its eyes, showing that it understood Lin Muyu's words. Finally, about 1,000 demons lined up outside the city and rushed over with a roar. Armor demons were good at field battles outside the city. Relying on this, they could give up the advantage of defending the city and come out to fight. This was the difference between demons and humans. Demons had an absolute advantage in physique. However, they had an absolute disadvantage in IQ. Of course, high-level demons like Qianfeng were excluded. Aerobox launch. Wei Chou roared. With the dense sound of springs, dim lights struck towards the charging armor demons one after another, penetrating their bodies and killing over 100 armor demons in a split second. However, the arrow box could only be used for one round in this area. The armor demons had already rushed over and threw their backup weapons from afar. In a split second, the air was filled with spears and battle axes. "Spear cavalry, defend!" Lin Muyu roared. Meanwhile, she condensed the wall of the calabash to protect the soldiers of the Longdan army camp behind her. A group of spear-wielding cavalry raised their shields, and for a moment clanging sounds rang out. The heavy blades even created sparks on the shields, and the force was so great that many spear-wielding cavalry were forced to take a few steps back. However, their cultivations were not low, and they immediately urged their horses to return to the battle formation. Charge! Wei Chou raised the spear beside his warhorse and roared, "Spear cavalry battalion, attack!" Nearly 300 spear cavalry galloped forward and collided with the opponents like a tide. As for Lin Muyu, who had the cultivation of the sanctuary realm, she naturally rushed to the front. She gently pushed the pear blossom spear forward, and the Hongchuan style turned into dense pear blossoms which fell on the armor demons and pierced through 3 armor demons in a split second. Meanwhile, she gently raised her left arm and blasted the chaos of all lives. Boom! Another dozen armor demons were seriously injured and retreated. The backfire of the chaos of all lives was nothing to Lin Muyu, who had the strength of her soul. She recovered after a few seconds of rest. She urged her horse to rush forward and quickly launched the second chaos of all lives. To be honest, the 7 luminaries' mysterious energy was indeed a super killer move in the battle formation, full of destruction. Beside Lin Muyu, a Catosaurus ran wildly. The red crystal scales on its back flew up like blades. The next moment its body suddenly curled up and rolled out. Those armor demons had never seen such a monster. They were shocked and then they were crushed by Acatosaurus. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen armor demons died under the attack of the sharp dragon scales of Acatosaurus. The Longdan army camp was so spirited that they rushed forward one after another. However, armor demons were armor demons after all. Additionally, the number of armor demons here was far more than that in Fiery Moon City. In the night, heavy weapons danced in the air. Soon some soldiers of the Longdan army camp were killed. Many people's heads were directly smashed. The battlefield was chaotic. There might be attacks from all directions. Even a powerhouse might not be able to keep his eyes open. The spear cavalry battalion constantly charged forward and separated the crowd of armor demons. Qin Yan led the ordinary heavy cavalries of the Longdan army camp to charge forward. Many people took out their bows and arrows and constantly shot armor demons with white diamond arrows. A group of people surrounded an armor demon, shooting arrows and stabbing weapons, which was a bit insane. After almost 1 hour, the resistance of armor demons became weaker and weaker. Finally, only the soldiers of the Longdan army camp could be seen galloping back and forth on the battlefield. Since Wei Chou served as the deputy commander of the Longdan army camp, he had been diligent in training soldiers. He was also very keen on learning military tactics. Therefore, he practiced the movement tactics of the heavy cavalries of the Longdan army camp by constantly cutting and charging to separate the opponents. It was very effective for armor demons. Some armor demons even had great strength. However, facing the constantly moving and charging heavy cavalries, they couldn't even defeat one of them. In the end, they were already covered with scars. After a short while, the battle came to an end. The city gate had been opened by Qin Yan. Bang! When the heavy iron gate was opened, Zhang Tai saw the flickering torches in the city. They were the commoners in Star Ceaseless City. All the armor demons had come out. However, these commoners came to open the gate on their own initiative. Clean up the battlefield. Lin Muyu carried the pear blossom spear that was covered in blood and slowly entered the city. Both sides of the road were filled with the commoners of Star Ceaseless City. Many of them had fear on their faces while some had joy on their faces. After Lin Muyu brought Wei Chou and the rest into the city, an old man wearing a black robe brought a group of commoners and surrounded them. He said respectfully, "This old man pays his respects to the general." "You are?" Lin Muyu did not know this person. The old man cupped his fists and said respectfully, "This old man is the governor of Star Ceaseless City, Huang Lin." "My lord, there's no need to bow." Lin Muyu raised her hand and the pressure of the sacred region rose, lifting up the old man's bowing body. She said with a smile, "After we came to Lingnan, many people were afraid of us. Why, is the governor not afraid of us, the soldiers of the empire?" A trace of a smile appeared on Huang Lin's old face as he said, "This old man is an official of Star Ceaseless City. I only wish for the commoners of Star Ceaseless City to live and work in peace. When the demon race came, we were massacred. The Iha country and Earl Xiang both gave up Star Ceaseless City. They did not even send a single soldier and just watched as our city was massacred." As he spoke, the old man's eyes turned red and he said, "My lord, I also know how powerful the demon army is. After such a long time, only my lord's army came to this fallen land to fight the armor demon army." Lin Muyu felt guilty and couldn't help but smile, saying, "The armor demons are the common enemy of humanity. Whether it is the empire or the Iha country, they should use their lives to defend the homeland of humanity. My lord, don't you think so?" The old man said gratefully, "My lord is right. As long as my lord is willing to defend Star Ceaseless City, this old man is willing to mobilize the 100,000 commoners of Star Ceaseless City to follow my lord to the death. We will contribute money and strength to your army without hesitation." "Good." Lin Muyu got off the horse and held the old man's arms, saying, "The armor demons may come at any time. The Empire's warriors behind me need to enter the city to rest. The rain is so heavy, so please arrange accommodation and food for us. Also, we need to prepare fodder for the war horses. Don't worry, I will definitely defend Star Ceaseless City and advance and retreat together with you." This old man obeys. "Thank you, my lord. I will do it right away." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and turned around to bring Wei Chou, Qin Yan, Fingxi and the rest into the city. The rain was getting heavier and heavier, almost making people unable to hear their voices. Wei Chou followed closely behind Lin Muyu and said, "Commander, are we really going to guard Star Ceaseless City? Did we come here to fight with the demon race? Why are you lying to this old man? Lin Muyu raised her face and allowed the rain to pour on her face. Not long later she lowered her head and said with a smile, "This world is full of lies. If you don't whitewash yourself as pure and holy as a white lotus, who will work for you?" Wei Chou was startled and smiled. He cupped his fists and said, "Commander is wise, this subordinate understands." Chapter 397. Xingju City was rich and there were many houses which had not been burned down by the demon race. Hence, the 5,000 people in the Longdan army camp were resting in the Divine Palace, the Spiritual Medicine Department, the Ironware Shop and other buildings in the city. After a sumptuous meal they all went to rest. The medical officers from the Spiritual Medicine Department also rushed over to take care of the injured soldiers. The night was quiet, only the sound of rain and the cries of pain from the injured soldiers could be heard. Lin Muyu stayed in the Divine Palace. The manager of the Xingju City Branch Palace had given his room to the Great Deacon of the Divine Palace. In the eyes of the people in the Divine Palace, Lin Muyu's identity was too noble. Not only was she the commander of the Empire's army, she was also the invincible Great Deacon. Hugging the long sword, Lin Muyu leaned against the bed and slowly fell asleep. After sleeping for an unknown period of time, a woman's voice suddenly came from outside. "How long has the Great Deacon slept for?" The guard of the Longdan army camp outside replied, "4 hours. Miss, what's the matter?" "It's nothing. The manager ordered me to help the Great Deacon to wash up. I'll wait here." "All right." Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. After 4 hours of sleep, the dou qi in his body was almost at its peak. Furthermore, he was full of energy. The higher his cultivation, the shorter the time he needed to rest. He placed the long sword at the side and said, "Guard, light the lamp and let the lady in." "Yes, Commander." A guard came in with a lamp in his hand and a girl in a yellow robe also came in with a basin of water in her hand. She said, "Great Deacon, Ziluo will help you wash up." "No need." Lin Muyu stood up and said, "I can do it myself." He washed his face and asked, "Ziluo, are you also from the Divine Palace?" "Yes." Ziluo replied respectfully. Reporting to the Great Deacon, Ziluo's parents passed away 2 years ago, so the Holy Temple's master took me in and let me do some trivial chores in the Holy Temple. Lin Muyu frowned. "According to what I know, the Holy Temple of the Empire has a rule that states that they do not accept women." Ziluo said in a panic. Ziluo requested to enter the Holy Temple myself. After much begging, Master Manager finally agreed. "I hope that Great Deacon will not blame Master Manager." "Don't be afraid. I won't blame him." Lin Muyu wiped her face and said, "All the cities in Lingnan are under the rule of the Iha Kingdom. In fact, the Lingnan Holy Temple is no longer under my supervision. Even if the Lingnan Holy Temple has any new rules, I have no right to interfere. I understand this, so don't worry." Ziluo said, "Great Deacon, you are very kind, huh?" After washing up, Lin Muyu put on her armor, picked up the dragon spirit sword and said with a smile, "Let's go." "Where did Great Deacon go?" Ziluo was stunned. "The military camp." Lin Muyu did not say much, only leaving her with a handsome back. Ziluo stood in the same place, biting her red lips, silently watching Lin Muyu's figure disappear at the end of the corridor, her heart beating wildly. For many girls, Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, could be called the model of a dream lover, but he did not even look at her. Ziluo did not have any extravagant hopes in her heart. Perhaps being able to see him was already a blessing from the heavens. Perhaps this back she would remember it for the rest of her life. On the square of the Holy Temple, the soldiers of the Longdan army camp were preparing, smoke curling up from the kitchen chimneys. The soldiers of the Spirit Fire Department were cooking, and a rich aroma of meat soup enshrouded the surroundings. Wei Chou and Fingxi came up to greet her, cupping their fists respectfully. "Commander." Lin Muyu nodded, smiled and said, "Today's meal will definitely be delicious." "That's for sure. Last night the governor's office sent over a lot of beef and mutton, but..." Fingxi's expression froze. According to the scout's report, an army has appeared to the south of Xingju City. It seems to be the Iha country's army from the Steel Wall, and they are about an hour's journey away from Xingju City. "How many people?" "About 3,000, all of them are the Iha country's heavy cavalry." The corner of Wei Chao's mouth rose and he smiled. Their target is Xingju City and they do not come with good intentions. Can we handle this army? Why not? Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, pass down the order, quickly eat and prepare to fight. Yes. Not long after the meal, Lin Muyu led Wei Chou and the rest, galloping along the streets of the city. If the opponent only had 3,000 people, then there was nothing to worry about. The heavy rain had already stopped, and the air was filled with the smell of soil and autumn leaves. Lin Muyu brought tens of high-ranking generals of the Longdan army camp to the slope outside the city. Looking from afar, the spirit pulse technique could feel the pulse of the earth. The opponent's cavalry was getting closer and closer, and there were also white birds in the sky, which should be the Iha country's scouting messenger birds. Wei Chou immediately raised his longbow and with a so, he shot an arrow, killing it. What should we do? Qin Yan was a little excited as he held onto his spear and said, Big brother, do we rely on the city to defend or directly lead the Longdan army camp out of the city and fight with them in the wilderness? Let's wait first and find out who they are. Yes. Not long after, a light cavalry scout from the Longdan army camp galloped over, cupped his fists respectfully and said, Sir, I have seen it clearly. They are carrying the banner of the Iha country's traitor, Lu Zhao. It is a general under Lu Zhao and his name is Xianxia. Xianxia? Lin Muyu frowned and said, do any of you know this person? Fishi said, I know. Although Xianxia is not astute, he is brave and good at fighting. It is said that in the Battle of Lanyan City, Xianxia's subordinates participated in the battle against the Flying Mount Camp and the Imperial Guards, and also participated in the massacre of the city in the end. It is said that Xianxia is cruel and heartless, and with a steel knife he has beheaded thousands of people in Lanyan City. He is known as the God of Massacre of Xiang City. God of Massacre. Lin Muyu's eyes were full of calmness and she said lightly, send orders to the Longdan army camp to leave the city. We will wait for them halfway and stop them. All of you use the white drill arrows. I want to kill 30% of them before the two armies come close. Yes, Commander. Wei Chou nodded and began to write a letter for the messenger bird. At the same time he asked, are we going to remove the arrow box and bring it out of the city? No, don't let them see the arrow box. Yes. Not long after, more than 4,700 elite cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp appeared at the back of the hill. Lin Muyu looked at everyone and said, I will lead 1,700 men to meet them head-on. Wei Chou will lead 1,000 men to attack the right flank. Fengxi will lead 1,000 men to attack the left flank. Qin Yan and Su Jiantao will lead 1,000 men to go around the forest. And when the battle starts, we will attack from behind, forming a pincer attack. I want this group of people from the Iha country to not be able to escape. Yes. All the generals cupped their fists and quickly led their subordinates away. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and looked at the majestic 1,000 heavy cavalrymen behind him. His heart was in turmoil. He finally faced the old enemy who attacked Lanyan City again. His heart was filled with mixed feelings, but as the commander of the army he had to suppress his anger and remain calm. The army gathered on the hill and after a few minutes, the sound of horse hooves could be heard from the open forest in front of them. 3,000 cavalrymen carrying the Iha country's flag came against the wind. In front of the army, a dark-faced general was holding a steel knife in his hand. He raised his long knife quickly and looked at Lin Muyu who was on the hill in front of him. He laughed and said, brothers, attack immediately and defeat them. He was indeed a fierce general. He didn't even plan to reorganize the formation and just launched a charge. Lin Muyu slowly raised his pear-blossom spear and said, let's fight. Taksha let out a long neigh and rushed down the hill with her master. The cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp, who had already formed a battle formation, also rushed down one after another. They drew their bows and arrows from afar and shot randomly. The white diamond arrowheads were indestructible and blood splattered everywhere. Just as Lin Muyu had expected, hundreds of people were killed before they even came into contact with the cavalrymen. At the same time, there were sounds of fighting coming from the forest on both sides. The people led by Wei Chou and Fengxi quickly formed a pincer attack. Bang bang bang. In a head-on attack, the Longdan army camp had a complete advantage, especially the heavy cavalrymen with cone-shaped shields in the front row. They almost crushed their opponents with a crushing advantage. On the other hand, Lin Muyu rushed to the front with his long spear. He shook the spear's shaft again and again, stabbing the Iha country soldiers off their horses. "Kill Lin Muyu!" someone shouted, and dozens of volunteer soldiers surrounded her. Lin Muyu's killing intent was at its peak. She swept her long spear around and suddenly shouted. 8 golden god-binding chains broke out of the ground around her and formed a substantial attack. These volunteer soldiers and their horses were pierced through. Blood flowed everywhere. It was a one-sided massacre. Not long after, Qin Yan and Su Jiantao led 1,000 people to attack from the back. The Iha country's cavalrymen were already defeated. "Bastard!" Xianxia waved his battle saber and slashed heavily on a cone-shaped shield, but he could do nothing. A chill came from behind him. He quickly turned around and slashed, but what welcomed him was Lin Muyu's merciless eyes and the energy attack in her palm. First appearance of starlight. Bang! Xianxiao's battle saber was directly shattered by first appearance of starlight. When Lin Muyu passed by him, she brazenly landed a palm on Xianxiao's chest. Instantly the armor shattered and Xianxiao spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. The golden gourd vines rose from the ground and quickly wrapped around Xianxiao. Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed him and placed him horizontally on the horse. She shouted, "Xianxiao has been captured. Do you still want to resist?" Xianxiao's face was ashen. He spat out blood nonstop and said loudly, "We lost. We lost. Give up resisting." The group of Iha country soldiers were dumbfounded. The weapons in their hands slowly fell to the ground. They had become captives. This battle was very fast. It had already ended in a short 20 minutes. Wei Chou held his lance and said indifferently, "Disarm all of you. Tie them up and bring them back to Xingju City." In Xingju City, a large number of Iha country captives had entered the city. They were all surrounded by the Longdan army camp in the southern plaza of the city. Lin Muyu stood on the southern city wall and looked at the group of captives calmly. Xianxiao was among them. Blood was still flowing from his mouth. He raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and shouted, "Lin Muyu, the Empire never kills captives. Since we have already disarmed, you cannot kill us. As long as you negotiate with Marshal Lu Zhao, he will use a large number of Jinin coins to exchange for our lives. You are a benevolent general, you cannot kill us." Lin Muyu turned around and did not look at Xianxiao again. At the side, Wei Chou said respectfully, "Commander, we are really not suited to kill the Iha country's captives here. After all, so many citizens of Xingju City are watching. There might be people from Xingju City among these captives." Fushi also said, "Commander, they have already disarmed. There is indeed no need to kill them." Lin Muyu lowered his head and remained silent. "Commander," Wei Chou could see that he was not calm and couldn't help but feel worried. When Lin Muyu raised his head again, his eyes were red and he muttered, "Wei Chou, do you know? This group of people participated in the battle against the Flying Mount Battalion. They might be one of the people who killed Big Brother Chu." "Sir, do you know?" Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with tears. He said in a daze, "Big Brother Chu Huayin is known as the most perfect man in Longyan City, but do you know how many weapons were stabbed into his body before he died? He had so many weapons stained with blood in his body that his body was bloated. Do you know?" As he spoke, Lin Muyu raised his head to look at the sky. Tears flowed from his eyes as he gently lowered his palm. "Kill them all. Leave no one alive." Chapter 398. Fresh blood dyed the southern plaza of Xingju City red. 84 corpses were transported out of the city to be buried, and the nearly 3,000 war horses brought by the Iha Nation army had all become Lin Muyu's spoils of war. In the afternoon, the war horses were tied to the front of the carriages, and the carriages were transporting a large amount of resources from Xingju City. Gold, gems, food, iron and so on were all moved away. Although Xingju City was rich, it was no longer possible to live in. Once the Demon Clan won the war in Lingnan province, they would quickly make a comeback, and at that time Xingju City would still become a dead city. 100,000 commoners majestically left the city, and the governor originally wanted to defend the city to the death, but he was still persuaded by Lin Muyu to retreat. Furthermore, he wrote a letter for him to bring to the city lord of Kuku City, Wang Ju. When Lin Muyu returned to Longyan City, he would recommend him to Qin Yin, and at that time he would still be given the position of governor. Watching the carriages leave Xingju City, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Qin Yan and the other generals were still watching from the city walls. Commander, the resources have all left, are we still not leaving? Wei Chou said. No rush. Lin Mu shook his head. How can I not be anxious? Feng Shi was very anxious at the side and said, Lord Commander, we have destroyed an entire 3,000 cavalry. The direction of the steel wall will definitely receive the news. If we do not leave now, when Ding Shi's army leaves the steel wall, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave even if we want to. Qin Yan said, Big brother, are you waiting for something? That's right. Lin Muyu frowned and asked, Wei Chou, how long will the food in the city last for the Longdan army camp? There are plenty of supplies, enough for at least 4,000 of us to eat for 3 years. However, there aren't many fodder piles left. Our army is made up of cavalry, so we rely heavily on fodder. We can probably last for a month in Xingju City at most. Enough. Lin Muyu said, Take good care of the warhorses and the arrow boxes, train them every day and temporarily treat Xingju City as the encampment of our Longdan army camp. Yes. Lingnan, Sunset City. Not good, not good. A messenger general rushed into the hall with a flustered look on his face. The setting sun Marquis Man Ning was holding a beautiful maidservant in his arms and enjoying the dance. He could not help but frown and say, Why are you so flustered? Calm down and speak. The messenger's face was livid. He cupped his fists and said, Marquis, the scouts at the front line have sent news that General Xianxia led 3,000 cavalrymen out of the city to attack Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp. They were all annihilated. What? Say that again? Marquis Sunset pushed away the maid in his arms and stood up, the fat on his face trembling. The messenger trembled and said, General Xianxia's 3,000 cavalrymen were all annihilated. The news is conclusive. Lin Muyu is still entrenched in Xingju City with about 5,000 soldiers from the Longdan army camp. They haven't left. Lin Muyu is a dog of the empire. The setting sun Marquis suddenly slammed the armrest of his chair, his face full of resentment. Xianxia, that idiot, suffered such a crushing defeat. If this news were to reach the ears of the commander, what face would our swift white province have left? Someone pass down my order to Ding Shi to lead the army out of the city and surround Xingju City. If Lin Muyu dares to annihilate my men, I will give him an eye for an eye. At the side, Lu Zhao stood up and cupped his fists. Marquis Sunset doesn't only have Marshal Ding Shi. Why doesn't the Marquis send me to kill the Empire's army? Man Ning narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, Marshal Lu Zhao is the pillar of the country, and that Longdan army camp only has a mere 5,000 men. There's nothing to fear, so leave this matter to Ding Shi. You and I will just sit and wait for Lin Muyu's head. Yes, the Marquis is wise. 3 days later, Ding Shi led 50,000 soldiers out of the steel wall and surrounded Xingju City. Big brother, it's all because of you. You said you would leave, but you didn't. You stayed for so long. Now you can't leave even if you want to. Qin Yan raised his spear and looked at Lin Muyu resentfully. Lin Muyu gazed into the distance and said with a smile, It's fine. You're still laughing. Qin Yan said snappily, I'm afraid we really won't be able to leave this time. These 50,000 men are under the command of Ding Shi, one of the 7 marshals of Lingnan Iha country. Ding Shi is well versed in the art of war, so he definitely won't let us go this time. Don't worry. Lin Muyu's gaze was stern as she said, If Ding Shi brings troops to surround Xingju City, then we will definitely be able to get out. Commander, what do you mean? Wei Chou asked, puzzled. Lin Muyu pointed at the Iha country's army a few li away from the city and said, Look, Ding Shi divided the 50,000 men into 4 groups, 1 group in each direction, which means that there are only 12,000 people in each direction. Most of them are infantrymen, and our Longdan army camp has 5,000 heavy cavalry. Think about it, can 10,000 infantrymen stop 5,000 heavy cavalry from breaking through? If I were Ding Shi, I would bring at least 100,000 men. You're saying, Ding Shi doesn't have killing intent? Wait for news. Yes. Right at this time, a messenger bird suddenly descended from the sky. Wei Chou took the letter and the corner of his mouth raised as he said, Commander, Songnan Province sent a battle report. Xiang Yu's night attack last night was successful, using catapults to shoot barrels filled with black beech oil into the passes of Qinling Mountains. The fire attack was victorious, and he seized all 4 passes of Qinling Mountains in Songnan Province from the hands of the fiend race. Qin Yan said in surprise, There's really such a thing? In this case, Xiang Yu's armored cavalry only need 2 days and 1 night to reinforce our Xingju city. Quickly send a letter to Xiang Yu and let him come and reinforce us. Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing. Ah Yen, do you think that Xiang Yu will be so kind as to send troops to help us? No need. Send a letter back to the imperial capital and inform us of the situation here. What everyone didn't expect was that Ding Shi besieged them and didn't launch an attack for a whole 5 days. It was as if he wanted to exhaust the morale and rations of the Longdan army camp. And what everyone didn't expect was that Xiang Yu indeed didn't have any intention of sending troops to help. He just sat and watched from afar as the Longdan army camp was besieged by the Iha country in Xingju city. Lanyan city. Qin Yin was dressed in a dignified long robe. Both her legs were placed together in a slanted position on the chair. She opened the letter in her hands and read it word by word. Her expression was focused, but she was also a peerless beauty. It made the young men among the officials swallow their saliva, but they didn't dare to have any improper thoughts. Even Tang Lu, Tang Tian, and the rest looked at Qin Yin's beauty and let their imaginations run wild, but they understood that they simply didn't have a chance. Chu Chu stood beside the Empress and said faintly, "You has been besieged in Xingju city. What does everyone think we should do?" Qin Yin also raised her beautiful face and looked at the officials. The Longdan army camp is besieged in Xingju city. Which general is willing to head to Earth Star province and lead the troops to rescue the Longdan army camp? Tang Lon cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, Lin Muyu was besieged because she underestimated the enemy. This old official feels that this is a trick of the Iha country's rebels. They will definitely arrange for a large number of troops to intercept and kill our reinforcements in the north of Xingju city. In this old official's opinion, why don't we send a letter to Commander Yu to forcefully break out of the encirclement and let as many troops as possible escape? Commander Yu possesses an unparalleled martial art and I believe that he will definitely come out alive." Qin Yin frowned slightly. "Do you have any other suggestions?" "Yes." Su Muyun cupped his fists and said, "The Marquis of Pingnan Xiang Yu has already led 100,000 troops to attack the Qinling Pass of Songnan province. It will take at most 2 days of cavalry to travel from the Qinling Pass to Xingju city. The Marquis of Pingnan has at least 30,000 cavalrymen under his command. With a surprise attack from 30,000 cavalrymen, I believe that they will definitely be able to break the siege of Xingju city." Tang Lon couldn't help but laugh. Duke Yun must be joking. Furthermore, not to mention the fact that the Northern Ridge Army is unfamiliar with the people and land in Lingnan, just Ding Shi alone won't be easy to deal with. Ding Shi isn't someone with an undeserved reputation and will definitely set up defenses. Moreover, General Xiang Yu is lacking in rations and it is already late autumn. The soldiers will need to change into cotton-padded clothes to keep out the cold. Is that so? Su Muyun squinted his eyes and smiled. But Duke Lon, don't forget that the 2 provinces near the Qinling Mountains, Songnan Province and Earth Star Province are all Duke Lan's people. If you don't send people to rescue Commander Yu, do you want to watch the former Emperor's godson stain the battlefield with blood and watch Her Highness the Empress lose her only brother? Tang Lon pondered for a moment and said, "How about this? This old man will immediately send a letter to Tang Shi, the guarding general of Cold Star City, and order him to mobilize the Imperial Army in Earth Star Province and leave Black Pine Pass to rescue Commander Yu?" Tang Shi. Su Yu frowned and said, "Tang Shi hasn't used a battle formation for a long time. I'm afraid that he might not be Ding Shi's opponent." "Then who else can fight?" Tang Lon asked in reply. Su Yu remained silent. There were only a few famous generals in the empire and there were only a few who could be a match for Ding Shi. Lin Muyu was already surrounded. Xiang Yu did not move. Feng Jixing guarded the imperial capital and Yao Yuan was responsible for guarding the imperial river. There was really no one else. Just when everyone was silent, Qin Yin slowly stood up and placed her hand on the hilt of her sword. She said indifferently, "Since that's the case, Shao Yin can only personally go to Xingju city. Feng Jixing, listen to my order. Immediately mobilize all the cavalry in the imperial army and go to Xingju city with me." Feng Jixing cupped his fists. "Yes, Your Highness." Su Muyun was stunned. "This? Your Highness, you mustn't. You have a precious body, how can you put yourself in danger? Not to mention that there are countless Iha nation rebels in Lingnan, there are also the demon race. Your Highness must not leave the imperial capital." Qin Yin smiled slightly. Grandfather, don't worry. Xiao Yi knows what to do and what not to do. At the side, Chu Chu said indifferently, Duke Yun, don't worry. Your Highness cultivation has improved a lot and has already stepped into the third heaven of heaven realm. Moreover, I will also follow your Highness to Lingnan. With Feng Jixing's help, even if Luo Lan comes personally, your Highness will be safe. Su Muyun sighed helplessly. All right then. Su Yu, take 30,000 cavalrymen from the Steel Blade Army and have them follow His Highness to the battlefield. Yes, father. Su Yu's face was full of joy. At the same time, news came from Hundred Ridge City. After fighting with the Demon Race's Thunder Rush army for half a month, Long Qianlin's Dragon Riders suffered a crushing defeat. They lost nearly half of their troops. The 70,000 soldiers led by Qin Huan were also killed by the Armor Demon Army during the charge. The Iha Nation's army retreated to the south of the Steel Protective Wall and did not fight. The north of the Steel Protective Wall was once again occupied by the Demon Race. Chapter 399. Long Qianlin was defeated? Lin Muyu slowly put down the letter in her hand. Her face was full of shock. The Thunderchong army is indeed brave. They actually killed more than half of the Dragon Riders. The Iha Nation has suffered a great loss this time. Wei Chou nodded, his eyes full of wisdom, and said, Commander, once the Dragon Riders are defeated, the spirit of the entire Iha country to fight back against the demons has already collapsed. Lei Chong will also send the Armor Demon Legion to occupy the cities north of the Steel Protective Wall. In less than 3 days they will definitely return to the Swift White Province. At that time, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave even if we want to. Don't panic. Don't panic. Lin Muyu pressed on her sword. We are worried that the demons will attack again. Dingxi must be worried too. Don't worry, there will be news from Dingxi soon. Alright. As expected, at dusk, a Iha Nation cavalryman holding a white flag came to the city wall and said loudly, I represent Marshal Dingxi to request an audience with Commander Lin Muyu. I hope you will grant me an audience. A torch was lit on the wall. Lin Muyu smiled. Let him come up. Yes. Not long after, the envoy walked up the wall with his hand on the hilt of his sword. Looking at the heavily guarded Longdan army camp on both sides, there was no fear on his face. When he arrived in front of Lin Muyu, he cupped his fists and said respectfully, Deputy General Ding Sanging of the Iha Nation greets Commander Yu. No need to stand on ceremony. Lin Muyu's face was full of smiles as if she had seen a relative. She asked, General Ding has come under orders. I wonder if Marshal Dingxi has any instructions for me? Ding Sanging smiled and said, I didn't. Marshal Dingxi has brewed a cup of good green tea in the Marshal's tent and invited Commander Yu to go to first grade. I just don't know if Commander Yu has the guts to go with me. Tea tasting? Wei Chou sneered. I'm afraid that tasting tea is fake. The real intention is to harm my commander. What are you saying, General? Our Marshal is an upright man. How could he do such a despicable thing? By the side, Qin Yan carried his long spear, his gaze cold as he said, Ding Seng, don't you have a glib tongue here? Do you believe that I won't stab 100 see-through holes in you? Immediately scram out of Star Absolute City for me. Otherwise, I'll make you regret coming in. Ding Senging was slightly startled. Commander Yu, I didn't expect there's not a single courageous person in the Imperial Army after all these years. Who said that? Lin Muyu smiled lightly. Let's go. If we wait any longer, I'm afraid Marshal Dingxi's tea will be cold. Alright, this way please, Commander Yu. Big brother. Qin Yan and the rest still wanted to stop her, but Lin Muyu already stopped them with a look, saying in a low voice, After I leave, listen to Wei Chao's arrangements for everything. Understood? Yes, bring a horse over for me. Descending the city, she mounted a black warhorse and followed Ding Sanging straight out of the city, heading straight for the Iha Nation's camp. Far away, a group of Iha Nation's cavalry already came forward to welcome them. Each and every one of them looked at Lin Muyu, this general wearing the Empire's emblem. Their faces were full of wariness, wielding their long spears as they stared fixedly at Lin Muyu. So nervous for what? Lin Muyu could not help smiling. While talking and laughing, the aura of a Holy Region powerhouse overflowed as she said coolly, If I want to make a move, you guys aren't a match either. Ding Sanging chuckled and said, All put down your weapons. Only then did everyone lower their weapons. The commander's tent was in the depths of the camp. Only after breaking through one seal after another did they see the Central Army's main tent. Far away, Ding Shi in a golden armor was already welcoming them. "Commander Yu, long time no see," Ding Shi said with a faint smile. "Long time no see, General Ding Shi." Lin Muyu gave him an empire's military salute. Ding Shi was startled. He did not know what Lin Muyu's action meant. He just rubbed his nose and said, "Commander Yu, I am the Iha nation's general. I no longer need this kind of etiquette." "Oh, I forgot." Lin Muyu smiled in relief and said, "Didn't the marshal want to make tea?" "Ah yes, let's go, please come in." An attendant had already walked over with a tea tray. Ding Shi knelt down and made tea as he said, "Does Commander Yu know why Ding Shi did not attack the city?" "The demon race is strong." Lin Muyu calmly spat out 4 words. Ding Shi could not help but laugh. "Commander, this is indeed the reason why you speak so quickly. The demon race is strong while the human race is weak. If the Iha nation and the empire were to fight each other now, I'm afraid the demon race would take advantage of the situation. So, Ding Shi invited Commander Yu here today to discuss important matters. If you want me to surrender to the Iha nation, then forget it." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Ding Shi also smiled. "Do you have any other choice? The Longdan army camp will be annihilated sooner or later, and you, the emperor's adopted son, have no other choice but to be loyal to Commander Qin Yi." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. Her killing intent had already been activated. Fierce battle light surged around her, and an invisible domain descended, forcing Ding Shi to sit on the ground. "I want to see how I have no other choice." Her palm was enshrouded in the light of the first stars. With one palm, Ding Shi, the marshal of the Iha nation, would definitely die. But at this moment, a voice came from behind the curtain. "Lin Muyu of the wind, rain, thunder and lightning, 4 heroes of Lan and Yen, is indeed a genius. This old man is not talented and would like to ask for advice." There was someone behind the curtain. Lin Muyu was taken aback. He was careless when he entered the commander's tent, and in the next moment his Saint Realm's oppressive aura swept over with an earth-shattering force. The other party also sent out a powerful aura. It was the same oppressive aura, another Saint Realm expert. Bang! The curtain suddenly shattered and sweat seeped out of Lin Muyu's forehead. Behind the broken curtain was a white-haired old man, but his face was red. Battle energy swirled around him, quickly forming an indescribably powerful force field. It was the Saint Realm. This was actually a Saint Realm expert at the 3rd level. Lin Muyu's Saint Realm aura had been enhanced by the god-binding chains, and although she could contend against it, she gradually felt that her strength was not as strong as she wished. With the great disparity in strength, she was no match for this person. The old man suddenly withdrew his domain, and a shrill sound exploded in the air. Lin Muyu's body was forced back and her face was pale. She looked at the old man in front of her and asked, "Who are you?" The old man also withdrew his aura and smiled. "This old man is Lu Zhan, the 2nd disciple of Celestial Venerable Luo Lan. Greetings, Commander. Under the orders of Marquis Man Ning, I am here to invite Commander Yu to return to Sunset City with me." "What if I refuse?" Lin Muyu clenched her teeth. Beside her, Ding Shi stood up and held Lin Muyu's shoulder. "Commander Yu, you really have no other choice. If you don't want your 5,000 Longdan army camp to die with you, surrender. Dream on." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Lu Zhan, kill me now or one day I will take Luo Lan's head." "How dare you?" Lu Zhan was enraged and his aura surged again. Ding Shi panicked. "Lin Muyu, I Ding Shi am begging you. Enduring for a while can save your life, why are you still so reckless?" "I Ding Shi am a brave and intelligent general, how can you be so stupid?" Lin Muyu's sword was already half drawn, and after hearing Ding Shi's words she slowly pushed it back and said dejectedly, "Even if I surrender to the Iha kingdom, I will never work for them." Ding Shi nodded. "As long as you surrender, I won't ask you to work for us." "Fine, but you must let the Longdan army camp go." "I'm afraid I don't have the authority to do so." At this time, a messenger suddenly rushed in and said anxiously, "Commander Ding, bad news, the Longdan army camp has opened the north gate and they are trying to break through." "What?" Ding Shi was shocked, but the corners of his mouth curled up slightly and he slammed the table. "How can this be? Immediately order the Heavy Shield Battalion and Long Spear Battalion to chase after them. Don't let a single one of them escape." "Yes." Ding Shi looked at him coldly. Commander Yu, it seems like the Longdan army camp has decided to abandon you. You are the commander of the Longdan army camp. Has the military power been divided? Lin Muyu was silent and slumped into a seat at the side. She raised her hand to look at Ding Shi and said, "Let's not drink tea, let's drink?" Ding Shi smiled. "All right, let's drink until we're drunk." Under the starlight, the spear-wielding cavalry opened the way, and over 4,000 Longdan army camp's heavy cavalry charged forward, forming a huge battle formation. The cavalry on both sides raised their shields high, protecting their bodies. The Iha nation's arrows landed on the shields and armors, but it was very difficult to cause any substantial damage to these Longdan army camp's heavy cavalry. In the end, the Iha nation's siege line was too long, and a corner of the Longdan army camp's front line had already collapsed with just one charge. In fact, the Longdan army camp did not even lose many people in battle before they broke out. The sound of horse hooves was very concentrated. Qin Yan held his long spear, his expression cold, and said, "Lord Wei Chou, are we going to abandon Big Brother just like this? If the Longdan army camp breaks out, what about Big Brother? He is heavily surrounded by the Iha nation's army. Is this really Big Brother's secret order?" Wei Chou raised his hand and held up a token. "The Longdan army camp commander token is here. Lord Qin Yan, please do not question my loyalty to the commander." "All right, it's just that Big Brother Qin Yan looked back but only saw the dense mass of Iha nation's pursuing soldiers. Although these pursuing soldiers could not catch up to the Longdan army camp, it was enough to make him unable to turn back to save Lin Muyu. The next day the Iha nation recaptured Xingju city, and the army retreated to the steel protective wall. Thousands of soldiers and horses guarded a huge horse carriage. Inside the horse carriage, Ding Shi and Lu Zhan sat together, while Lin Muyu sat opposite them. She looked coldly at everything outside the curtains, but only saw the billowing dust stirred up by the cavalry. Ding Shi smiled faintly. "Commander, you need not worry. Lord Sunset Marquis has already decided to promote you to Sunset City's Protector General, which is equivalent to the rank of General. Yu Yu's letter has already been sent to Hundred Ridge City, and we are only waiting for the commander's reply to confirm the matter of you being conferred the title of King." King? Lin Muyu was somewhat at a loss. "Yes." Ding Shi nodded and said with a smile, "You are the Emperor's godson, so Marquis Sunset Marquis has proposed to the commander to confer you the title of King. This is what you deserve. The things that you did not get in the Empire, the Iha nation can give them to you." "That's right." Lin Muyu was silent. Chapter 400. The journey was bumpy, and after nearly half a day the convoy finally arrived at the capital of the Swift White Province, Sunset City. From afar, the splendid city looked especially majestic under the protection of the steel walls. The flags of the Iha nation were connected together, and they could faintly see rows of guards on the steel walls as well as ballistae, stone cannons, catapults and other weapons. The wheels were still squeaking and shaking the bodies of the travelers on the carriage. Lin Muyu leaned against the inside of the wooden carriage and closed his eyes. His entire body was enshrouded in warrior energy. He didn't know what was waiting for him, but he was sure that it wasn't anything good. He could even feel that Lu Zhan, who was in the divine sky realm, was up to no good. It was probably because he killed Bu Hai, who was also Luo Lan's disciple. "Commander Yu will arrive at Sunset City soon." Ding Shi smiled. "Yes." Lin Muyu didn't say anything. "What are you thinking about, Commander Yu?" Ding Shi asked. "I'm thinking." Lin Muyu pondered and said, "I'm thinking that if I had decided to surrender, hand over the military power, and let the Longdan army camp disarm, would Marshal Ding Shi have ordered my 5,000 brothers to be killed?" "Ah." Ding Shi couldn't help but laugh, and a strange look flashed across his face. He said, "What are you talking about, Commander Yu? I Ding Shi am not Long Qianlin and you are not Feng Jixing, are you?" "Oh yes." Lin Muyu smiled and didn't say anything else. Not long after, the caravan arrived at the steel wall. The heavy iron gate under the wall slowly opened, and a group of people came out to greet them. Under the canopy there was a man standing on the chariot. He was fat and old, and he was the lord of Sunset City, Man Ning, the father of Man Fong, one of the 7 marshals of the empire. Sadly, Man Fong was defeated by the Yangwei army in Winterfrost City, and then he was probably killed by the demons. The carriages slowly came to a stop, and Man Ning got off the carriage and cupped his fists. Old General Man Ning greets Commander Yu. Lin Muyu naturally knew who Man Ning was. She jumped out of the carriage and cupped her fists. Lin Muyu greets the Marquis. Man Ning's chubby face trembled as he smiled. Commander Yu, you're too polite. When I heard that Commander Yu was willing to submit to the Iha country, I was overjoyed. It's rare for Commander Yu to be so righteous and be willing to sever all ties with the cruel empire in the north of the mountain ridge. This is the fortune of the world. With a famous general like Commander Yu, the Iha country will definitely be able to drive out the demon race, destroy the empire and unify the world. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said resolutely, I think Marquis must have misunderstood me. I'm the adopted son of the emperor and the brother of the empress, so even if I submit to the Iha country, I will never work for it, and I will never lead the army to attack the empire. Haha. Man Ning laughed heartily. Don't worry, don't worry. As long as Commander Rain is willing to pledge allegiance to Iha country, it's a great thing. Let's go. The old general has already set up a banquet in the Sunset Hall. Everyone is waiting to celebrate Commander Rain's victory. Yes. Lin Muyu subconsciously gave an imperial military salute, but Ding Shi, Man Ning, Lu Zhan, and the others found it particularly irritating, as if it was a form of mockery. The carriages continued to move forward slowly, and the number of guards around them increased. Thousands of cavalrymen from the Sunset City surrounded them, escorting Lin Muyu and the others over the steel wall. Beside Man Ning, there was a super powerful man who looked to be around 40 years old. With the help of the spiritual pulse technique, Lin Muyu could sense the whirlwind aura in this man's body. This was a powerful man of the first level of the Saint Realm, and he served as Man Ning's personal guard. It seemed that Qin Yi really relied on this Marquis of the Sunset Sun. In fact, although the Swift White Province only took up 25% of the land area of the 4 major provinces in Lingnan, it was a vast expanse of land, and the food it produced accounted for more than 60% of the Iha country's food. Moreover, it had a rich population and a strong army. It was precisely because of the Swift White Province's alliance that the Iha country could rise so quickly. Sitting in the carriage, Lin Muyu was silent. He was relieved that Man Ning did not order his weapons to be removed, but he was worried that there were more and more powerful enemies. Not to mention Ding Shi, Lu Zhan was a powerful man of the 3rd level of the Saint Realm, and there was also a powerful man of the 1st level of the Saint Realm with Man Ning. Although Lin Muyu was arrogant, he knew that he was no match for them. He let out a sigh of relief and continued to sit quietly in the carriage. At the same time, he looked at the bustling traffic and prosperity in the Sunset City. Lanyan City was more prosperous than this place before the massacre. Although it was the same now, the massacre was like a lingering shadow in the hearts of the people. This difference could be seen from the faces of the people. Ding Shi said, after the banquet, Commander Yu, please stay in my mansion. When the order from the Commander-in-Chief of the North Ridge Province comes, you can move into the Prince's mansion. Thank you, General Ding Shi. Lin Muyu nodded but then said, I don't serve the Iha country. Why does the Marquis still treat me so well? Well, Ding Shi touched his nose and looked around. Lu Zhan had already gotten off the carriage and rode away. He lowered his voice and said, although the Iha country seized most of the land of the empire 3 years ago, it also suffered a great loss of strength. Later, the Seven Seas City and the Twilight Rain City sent troops and defeated the main force of the Iha country in one fell swoop. So far, the military power of the empire is no less than that of the Iha country, and it has the momentum to rise again. So at this time, the Iha country needs an important figure of the empire to swear allegiance. Otherwise, do you think the Marquis will let you go after you caused the death of the Manfong young marshal in the Winterfrost City? I see. Lin Muyu smiled bitterly. I feel like I'm just a chess piece that manipulates people's hearts. Yes, the Commander-in-Chief and the Marquis need you only because you are the sworn brother of the Empire's Empress. If you surrender to the Iha country, it means that the Iha country is deeply popular. I remember the Marquis once said that as long as you, Lin Muyu, surrender to the Iha country, it is better than 100,000 soldiers. I got it. Lin Muyu leaned against the wooden board of the carriage looking very depressed. Ding Shi smiled. But Commander, you doesn't need to be too sad. You have already made it clear that you will not attack the Empire for the Iha country, and the Commander-in-Chief Qin Yi will not break his promise. Instead, the Iha country may use you to fight the demon race. Fight the demon race. Yes, the news that the Longdan army camp under Commander Yu has won successive battles in the Qinling Mountains and forced the Armor Demon army to retreat again and again has already spread all over the world. Don't you know it? No. Lin Muyu shook her head slowly and said, I've been busy fighting these days. I don't have time to learn about these things. Saying this, she glanced at Ding Shi and smiled. General Ding Shi, don't you get tired of fighting? This. Ding Shi lowered his eyes and smiled. Who would be willing to live a life of licking blood on the edge of a knife? I Ding Shi am not talented. I was selected by Marquis Xiang and became one of the 7 commanders. I should be grateful and serve, so I can't rest yet. In fact, I, Ding Shi, hope to unify the world as soon as possible, either the Iha country or the empire. After unifying the world, I, the marshal, will immediately retire to the fields, find a mountain village, plant a bamboo forest, raise a pond of fish, marry a wife, have 3 or 5 children, and live a carefree life, Xiaoyao country. Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing. I didn't expect General Ding Shi to be so useless. Ding Shi didn't get angry. He rubbed his nose and said, one's life is 100 years long, there's no need to be so calculative. Ding Shi isn't as stubborn as Commander Rain. I'm actually quite a selfish person. I won't be like Commander Rain, who would disregard his own safety for a word or a relationship. Lin Muyu was surprised. Ding Shi seemed to be referring to something. Ding Shi just smiled faintly, but his eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. These eyes were exactly the same as the eyes that deliberately let Qin Yin live during the turmoil outside Yanlan City. Thank you, General Ding Shi. Lin Muyu said in a voice as soft as a mosquito. You're welcome. Ding Shi cupped his fists and said with a smile. Hearing that Commander Yu was not killed, many generals of Iha country were filled with righteous indignation, even alarming Venerable Luo Lan. Only I, Ding Shi, am glad that Commander Yu did not die. Why? Because the world is in complete chaos. The demons descended from the sky from Tongtian province with unstoppable momentum. It would be a pity if a hero like Commander Yu died. Ha, Marshal is too kind. Lin Muyu clasped her hands together and did not say anything else. Her body swayed along with the carriage as her gaze landed on the scenery outside the carriage window. The citizens of Sunset City were all crowding on both sides of the road as they watched. Many of them seemed to have never seen the Marquis of Sunset Man Ning before. They pointed respectfully, but not a single one of them recognized Lin Muyu in the carriage. After all, to the citizens, the status of a marquis was much higher than that of an army commander. To them, a commander was too far away. When night fell, the convoy finally entered a majestic palace, Sunset Palace. Man Ning spent a huge sum of money to build this private palace for nearly 10 years. It could be said to be extremely extravagant. The moment Lin Muyu stepped out of the carriage, she found that even the outer steps of the palace were gilded. One could imagine how luxurious the interior was. Marquis Man Ning walked forward and held Lin Muyu's wrist. He smiled and said, Commander Yu, please follow me in. The banquet has already been prepared. All the high-ranking generals and officials stationed in Sunset City will be attending. There are even some old acquaintances of Commander Yu. Old acquaintances? Lin Muyu was stunned. Who? Commander Xin Yang of the Qin clan's Tianchong army. Do you know him? Yes. He had already surrendered to the Iha kingdom during the chaos in Lanyan City. In addition, more than 30 high-ranking generals of the empire had also surrendered to the Iha kingdom. Many of their names are still on your national monument. How lamentable and ridiculous. Man Ning's face didn't hide his disgust for the Qin Empire. Chapter 401. Step by step she walked up the steps of the Sunset Hall, enduring Man Ning's bloated and ugly face, as well as the rancid smell on his body. Although he had been sprayed with spices, it was still faintly discernible. The doors of the Sunset Hall were wide open. A group of golden-armored guards stood under the gold-plated and diamond-studded stone pillars, looking solemnly at Lin Muyu and Man Ning. Lu Zhan stood to the side as if afraid that Lin Muyu would kill Man Ning. Lin Muyu tried her best to suppress her aura. Under the illumination of the glass lamp at the entrance of the Sunset Hall, the protruding hilt of the dragon spirit sword behind her gown shone brightly. However, everyone knew that this sword was a weapon of murder. Who knew how many generals of the Iha kingdom had been killed by it? In the eyes of the Iha kingdom's generals, the dragon spirit sword was not a divine weapon, but a demonic weapon. The extravagance of the Sunset Palace was comparable to that of the Zetian Palace of the past. It was resplendent in gold and jade, and there were already many civil and military officials crowded inside. A general in golden armor walked up, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and gave a Iha country military salute. The corners of his mouth curled up with thick disdain, and he said with a smile, "Alvi Zhao pays his respects to Commander Yu. I didn't expect that a general who is loyal to the empire like Commander Yu would actually know to submit to the Iha country. Congratulations." Lin Muyu desperately suppressed her murderous intent and smiled. Lin Muyu pays her respects to Marshal Alvi Zhao. I've only heard of Marshal Alvi Zhao's reputation before, but now that I've seen you in person, you are indeed mighty. The corner of Alvi Zhao's mouth twitched. He bowed to Man Ning and said, "Marvi, can the banquet start now?" "Yes." Man Ning nodded. "Everyone take your seats. Let's start the song and dance." "Yes." Lin Muyu's seat was arranged between Man Ning and Ding Shi, and she naturally looked very distinguished. The palace maids danced in front of her, accompanied by the musicians. The palace maids were all dressed in silk dresses, and their figures were graceful and very beautiful. Alvi Zhao, Ding Shi and the rest were a little dumbfounded. Lin Muyu intentionally or unintentionally looked around, but her heart was in a daze. After Man Ning toasted, Ding Shi, Alvi Zhao and the other generals all came over to toast. Of course, the toasts from Alvi Zhao and the other Iha Kingdom generals were full of sarcasm. Had Lin Muyu not been able to control herself, she would have already drawn her sword and killed this despicable person. Not long after, a man stood up with a jade cup in his hand, slowly filling it with fine wine. He walked slowly to Lin Muyu's seat and said respectfully, "Subordinate Xianyang offers a toast to Commander Lin Muyu." Lin Muyu looked up. Xianyang was still the same Xianyang from before. His demeanor didn't seem to have changed at all. However, the military insignia on his neck was now 3 stars. Just like Lin Muyu, he was a commander. "Congratulations on your promotion, General Shen." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Xin Yang's expression was very ugly. "Commander Yu, why do you have to be so sarcastic? If we hadn't been surrounded, we wouldn't have. No need to say more." Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. "It was your choice to submit to Iha Kingdom. Otherwise no one can force you." "Yes." Xianyang stood where he was. His mind was in a mess and his hands were trembling. He almost crushed the jade cup in his hand. At this time a few generals appeared behind Xianyang. 2 of them were captaincy-ranked generals and the other 2 were Kiliarchs. All of them looked familiar and were obviously surrendered generals. One of the thin-faced captaincy sneered and helped Xianyang. "Commander Shin, you are now at the same rank as this person. Why do you have to lower yourself to please him?" Xianyang's eyes were cold. "Chao Ying, shut up." The general called Chao Ying was furious. He looked at Lin Muyu and sneered. "Lin Muyu, you are the emperor's adopted son and the commander of the Eagle Nest camp. You have enjoyed the favor of the emperor and her highness the princess, but in the end, you still submitted to Iha Kingdom in order to survive. Who are you putting on this high and mighty attitude for? We are only doing it for our lives. Are you more noble than us?" Lin Muyu laughed self-deprecatingly. She raised her cup and her eyes were filled with murderous intent. She said each word loudly and clearly, "Then I congratulate all of you for forsaking the darkness and joining the light. Today you have risen rapidly." Xianyang sighed, raised his head and drank the wine. After Lin Muyu finished her cup of wine, she slowly put it down and continued to sit there. He watched Xianyang and the others leave. Her expression was a little gloomy and her heart was full of mixed feelings. Yes, these people submitted to Iha Kingdom in order to survive. Were they really wrong? After thinking for a long time, he clenched his fists tighter and tighter. They were wrong. They allowed a city of people to be slaughtered in order to survive. They were a disgrace to their identity as soldiers. These people were not worthy of being called soldiers. However, Lin Muyu did not say these words and he did not dare to say them. Ding Shi looked at him silently and also did not speak. Not long after, a fat official walked over and said with a flattering smile, "This subordinate is Zhang Yu, the governor of Pingning County under Sunset City. Greetings, Commander Yu." Lin Muyu nodded. Zhang Yu continued, "Pingning Prefecture is a place of outstanding people. It is rich in jade and beautiful women. If Commander Yu has the time, please visit Pingning Prefecture. I will be a good host." "I understand. Thank you." I will go. Then I will take my leave. Remember, Commander Yu. Zhang Yu slowly retreated. Soon a pale-faced young man came over. He cupped his fists and bowed. Greetings, Commander Yu. I am the shopkeeper of Xiang City's Tongde Chamber of Commerce. Here's a gift. I hope Commander Yu will accept it. He gently pushed a golden piece of paper over. Lin Muyu took a look. It was a banknote worth 100,000 Jinying coins. The people of Xiang City were really rich. Their gifts were worth hundreds of thousands of Jinying coins. Putting the gold note away, Lin Muyu said, "Don't worry. In the future, if there is anything I can help you with, I will do it." Thank you so much, Commander Yu. The merchant bowed again and again. As expected, he was a businessman. One after another, dozens of officials and merchants came to make friends. Lin Muyu did not reject any of them. She accepted all the gifts. Dingxi was dumbfounded. After a moment, Dingxi couldn't help but ask, "Commander Yu, you really don't reject anyone?" Lin Muyu smiled. "Since I've surrendered, I don't even want my dignity and integrity. What's the use of my face? I'll take as many benefits as I can. I think the Marquis and the Chief would like to see me like this." Dingxi smiled knowingly. That's right. Who wouldn't be greedy in this world? Some people are greedy for fame, some are greedy for benefits, and some are greedy for power. This is also good. If Commander Yu doesn't want anything, it will make people suspicious. Why did you surrender to Iha country? It's not just to survive. After all, with your ability, killing your way out of Xingju City is not a problem. Then what is Marshal Dingxi greedy for? Me? It's probably a moment of peace. Dingxi laughed. As you said, I, Dingxi, will only have this little bit of success in my life. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. There are many people who are mediocre and do nothing. But Marshal Dingxi is a strategist, but he's not willing to fight for more. It's admirable. Sai, what are you saying? You're too polite. Come, let's have another cup. All right, I'll toast you. Just like that, late at night, many people were already drunk. Even the Marquis of the Setting Sun, Man Ning, was red in the face. He was hugging two maids and sitting there with a happy expression on his face. Lu Zhan raised his hand and said, "The Marquis is drunk. Send him back to his quarters to rest." "Yes, Your Highness." The maids answered submissively. Dingxi looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Commander Yu, we're also very drunk. Shall we go back?" "All right." Lin Muyu's eyes were calm. She stood up and walked out of the palace with Dingxi. Lu Zhao caught up to them. He was already drunk. He laughed and said, "Commander Yu, don't be in such a hurry to leave." "What's wrong, Marshal Lu Zhao?" Lin Muyu asked. LV Zhao laughed heartily. "It's nothing, I'm just worried that Commander Yu didn't enjoy the wine at the Sunset Hall today. If you're free in the future, I, LV Zhao, will treat you to a drink at my residence. At the same time, I'll let you see the specialty of the Great Qin Empire, human flesh durian." Human durian. Lin Muyu was shocked. "What's that?" Commander, you don't play dumb. Have you forgotten that he was once the commander of the Imperial Guards of the Qin Empire? Lu Zhao walked up to Lin Muyu, pretending to be close. He put his hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, "I heard that you're friends with him." Lin Muyu gritted his teeth as a powerful astral do qi condensed from his palm. At this moment he could no longer suppress his desire to kill LV Zhao. But at this moment, a domineering aura descended and Lu Zhan slowly walked over with a faint smile on his face. "Commander Yu, what are you two chatting about? Why are you so happy?" "Nothing." Dingxi's expression was calm. He opened his palm and grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. "Commander Yu, you're drunk. Let's go back. We'll have a chance to attend Marshal Lu Zhao's banquet." Then Dingxi pulled Lin Muyu and left. Under the moonlight, Lin Muyu lowered his head. His handsome face was a little twisted. He clenched his fists in pain. Dingxi seemed to understand his mood. After getting on the carriage, he said lightly, "The future is long. Don't fight with a villain like LV Zhao for a moment of pleasure." Commander Yu's original intention of submitting to Iha country was not to kill LV Zhao, right? Lin Muyu looked up at him. His eyes were bloodshot, but he didn't say anything. Dingxi curled his lips. "Everyone here is my man. Don't worry. No one will spread our words. I'll kill Lu Zhao." Lin Muyu said word by word.